Hey folks, this is Kalani, and welcome to the first of hopefully several Guild Wars 2 news episodes, where I bring you the news that's hot in the community over the last week or so. Now, I have no idea how often these will come out. I guess it depends on how much news we have. But in this episode, Glory is being removed as a currency, CDI is expected on the forums very shortly, cinematic conversations are being retired, there's several parties being planned across both EU and NA for the end of Lion's Arch, and there's a few server issues, so stay tuned for all the goodies. So first up, we're going to talk about Glory. Now, Glory is the structured PvP currency and is being removed in favour of a gold alternative, and gold is going to be the currency across both PvE and PvP. If you weren't aware, this is part of the planned structured PvP changes, so all of this has been in motion for quite a while. In fact, there's more stuff to come, and quite a bit has already been changed already. For example, you now do actually get gold, or a little bit of silver I guess, from your wins in structured PvP. It's going to go all the way to the point where ranks are going to be removed, so that's on the table, but obviously a little bit later. All we've got for now is that Glory is being removed as a currency. Now, that's expected to happen on March 18th with a server maintenance, so do watch out for that one. The date is obviously subject to change depending on whether ArenaNet feels it can be brought back or pushed back, so kind of earlier or later, I guess. And then after that, the vendors are going to stay for a while, so you'll still have time after the 8th of March to spend your Glory, except you won't be able to earn any more. So if you have your heart set on something to purchase with your Glory, I'd recommend working towards it and doing so before March 18th. Now, the vendors are going to stay a little bit after March 18th, but note that the random reward chest for 200 Glory and a bit of coin, that's actually going to disappear. So if you want to spend your Glory on that, you'll have to do so before this happens, so March 18th, or whenever they change it to. So moving onwards to the CDIs, these are going to be available on the forums on Monday the 17th, and they're going to have 3 sections. Now they're going to be PvE, PvP and World vs World focused. So, PvE focus will be, how would you like to see us evolve fractals? Now that's obviously talking about the end game content, inverted commas, in Fractals of the Mists. Anything for fractal difficulty, variation, how many fractals you've got, how they're currently set up. Remember, you have to go through 3 fractals and a bonus fractal to essentially go up a fractal level. How many fractal levels there are, the rewards as they scale through the levels, mislock instabilities, can they add more with new levels, that kind of thing. So if you've got any discussion topics or any thoughts or queries for yourself, that'll be the place to go. You'll get dev interaction, so you can find out if, or rather what the devs were thinking with Fractals of the Mists, as well as how they feel about the rewards, where they plan for Fractals of the Mists to potentially be, and where they'd hope for it to be. Now, the PvP focus is going to be, what would you like to see from a league system? Now, first of all, that hints that we may actually get a league system, which could be interesting indeed. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the league system, I assume it'll probably work in the pretty similar way as to how League of Legends works in its divisions and leagues. Essentially, the more you play and the better you perform, the higher division or league you get set into, meaning you'll be matched with people of hopefully equal player skill, and the higher the league, the more prestigious rewards you get. So that could be something worth kind of chiming in for if you've got thoughts on that yourself. Now, the World vs World is going to be focused on what aspects of Edge of the Mists do you think could carry over into the rest of World vs World, and how? Obviously, ArenaNet are seeing the pretty good success of Edge of the Mists map, and potentially want to take some of its more positive features and potentially incorporate them into the current Borderlands matchup. So, if you're a fan of World vs World, that CDI will probably be the place to be. Now, that could be incredibly interesting, because that could bring anything from varying objectives on the map, depending on what colour you are, to completely new World vs World maps, as well as pretty much any of the systems which work in Edge of the Mist, such as the airstrike grenades and the sentry turrets, those kind of things, which could be really, really cool. Now, obviously those aren't quite available yet, so if you have any comments or questions or queries or discussion topics which you're just raring to get out, please leave them in the comment section below, and you may get a bit of discussion down there. But be prepared, obviously, on the 17th of February, this month, on Monday, to go over to the official forums to provide your feedback on the CDIs. Obviously, your feedback is what drives these forum posts. So our next topic is cinematic conversations and them being retired. Now, in case you're unsure of what this is the personal story conversation type of cinematic, which involves two people, normally the player you're talking to and your player character, and they converse kind of back and forth in this little cinematic. Now, they're being retired officially. We haven't seen them for a while in-game, which is kind of interesting, although quite a few people commented that they feel a little too out of place and break immersion by essentially bringing you out of the game world for that conversation, and it feels a little more like a loading screen into the next section instead of a conversation between your player character and the NPC. But they seem to have replaced them with the motion graphics cinematics, which we've seen quite a lot of over the recent living stories. Some quite standy out ones, I guess, ones that really stick in my mind, are the one where we first met Marjorie in the Dead End Bar, where you had essentially the graphics kind of moving around and then the story being told through her voice, as well as when we found out a majority of Scarlett's plots in the Toxic Alliance dealio. She kind of came in, things were sliding across in a motion graphic cinematic kind of way, and she told us a little bit of story. So that seems to be what they're going with instead of these personal story conversations, but just a little official note that they've been retired, so we may not see those in the game ever again, though the ones that are currently in the personal story, as far as I'm aware, will continue to be there. On a little bit of a lighter note, some folks over on Reddit are planning to send Lion's Arch off with a few celebrations. Now, the main party seems to be named Down with the Ship and will take place on US Tarnished Coast. That'll be Saturday the 15th at 9 PM EST or 2 AM GMT, so you can obviously work those into your own times if necessary. Now, that seems to be a little more organised than the EU party, which we know will be on Underworld at 9 PM GMT +1, although no date has currently been confirmed. I'll leave a link to both Reddit posts in the description below, so you can check them out for yourselves. It's nice to send Lion's Arch off with a little bit of a bang. I dislike ending on a bad tone, but it seems that we've had a few server issues over the last few days. Now, these can be credited to a few denial of service attacks on the cloud servers which host Guild Wars 2, among some other games. Quite a few other popular titles such as League of Legends and World of Warcraft have been having the same server connection instability issues, so it's not just Guild Wars. Now, what this means is that sadly ArenaNet can't do an amazing deal about it, because it's not a problem necessarily on their end, and pretty much all of the games companies seem to be working to resolve it, or at least put quite a bit of defensive measures in place. At least we can be thankful that it doesn't last too long. But hopefully the perpetrators will be caught and this will end once again. So that's it for this news episode. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments section below and whether you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.